everybody, welcome to the Soul of Nye. Before we go any further, I'm going to introduce myself and what this channel stands for before we go any further with this video. So for you who already know me, you know that I've been talking about this channel for many months now. I'm going to say probably about 3-4 months, maybe 5 at the most, when I first got the idea. And so this is my first video, but however, the reason for this channel is to represent God in a new light. So before we go any further with what that means, I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Anaya. I'm 21 years old. I was born August 7th, 1999 in New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey. So since I got that small introduction out the way, what I mean by representing God in a new light, right now in this day and age, many of God's children are starting to wake up and step into their true calling and their true power and authority. And I'm not the only one with the YouTube channel. I'm not the only person that's coming to certain realizations about certain stuff. There's many children of God right now that are coming into truths and that are speaking the truth and preaching the gospel. Because God is not happy with how he was presented before in the past. You know, just as far as people, you know, pointing a finger, oh, you're going to hell, you're damned to hell. And, you know, just his disobedient children. This channel is for his disobedient children as well as the obedient children. This isn't a channel to sit here and represent one side or the other. No, this is all of God's children. So since I got that part out of the way, I do have a notebook here just so when I do begin to share my testimony and, you know, my journey throughout the process, because like I said, this is my experiences. Nobody can take these experiences away from me. So like I said, I have this notebook. So if you guys see me looking, you know, up and down, it's because I'm trying to go in order with my testimony so I don't go on a rambling rampage mess. So if you touch this video, that means you need to hear this video. My mother, she had me at 15 years old while she was still in high school. And essentially, I was raised as the only child. My dad, he does have 4 other children, so there's 5 of us total, and I'm the oldest. However, when I was growing up, I only grew up in a household with my mom, my grandma, my uncle, and my Popup. And I had other cousins and stuff like that and these things. But my cousins, they were always like 7 to 8 years older than me. Or I had friends, you know, my mom's friends had children, but they were either way younger than me or way older than me. So I was kind of in the awkward, you know, age group. So I didn't really start being around other kids and stuff like that until, you know, school. But since I got that out the way, how my family's religious background was. I did not grow up in a religious household at all. However, we did believe in God. We did go to church occasionally, but it was never anything that was forced. You know, anybody, oh, you got to go to church. Like, it wasn't any type of rules, regulations. Like, I had a very happy childhood. And essentially, my childhood was surrounded by my Popup. My Popup is a huge part of this testimony. And anybody that knows me knows that me and my Popup were like this. Even though I only had 4 short years with my grandfather because he passed away when I was 4, every living moment that I spent with him, I remembered. I don't really remember too much else about my childhood with other people, but when it came to my Popup, I remembered it. And it wouldn't be until later that, you know, I understood that it was definitely a divine connection from God. Because it just didn't make sense how I could remember everything with him, but with other people, I could not remember it as well. And with my Popup, I wasn't curious about God until after my Popup passed away, because my Popup spoke to me a lot about God and what God stood for. And he always, you know, told me happy thoughts, happy stuff. So essentially, I will almost look at my Popup to be like God, but I knew my Popup wasn't God. I knew he wasn't God, but in my eyes, my Popup, he couldn't do anything wrong. He couldn't do anything wrong in my eyes. So when he passed, that's when confusion infiltrated me. As you can tell, my papa was like my best friend, and he always told me not to, cry, and, don't cry, be happy, this and this and that. And so my papa was sick. He had been sick since I was born, pretty much. But as I got older and stuff like that, he started getting sicker and sicker. And I just remember when he was getting sicker, my grandmama and him would start arguing more, and I did not like that at all. Even though I didn't know what they were arguing about or anything like that, I did not like the fact that my grandma was arguing with my papa because he couldn't do any wrong in my eyes. Still to this day, I don't know the things that they were arguing about. That's personal. That's none of my concern or my business, but it struck something in me. And I knew there was about to be a major shift. So after a while, my papa, he started getting sicker. So he got transferred to the hospital. This is when things really started shaking up. So it was kind of still a blur, but I just knew my papa was gone too long, and it wasn't adding up. It was a blur. But at this point, he was still alive, still. And I had only seen my grandfather in the hospital one time because he didn't want me seeing him like that. And I remember when I did go to the hospital, I just could not recognize him. He was unrecognizable until he smiled. And that's when I knew that that was my grandfather. But he had changed a lot drastically since the last time that I seen him. So the next time I would see him was his funeral, the day of his funeral. So the day that my papa passed away, my mom said she remembered that I was asleep and I woke up and I told her that, Papa is gone and that he loves all of us, and then I just passed out and went back to sleep. I myself don't remember this, but my mom said it's something that she will never forget because my papa was essentially her best friend. That was her best friend too. They was really, really close, more close than me and him were. But of course I didn't see that because I was selfish as a kid. Like I always wanted my papa, but they were really close too. But I just remember the day that, of his actual funeral and the day that he died, the house became so depressed. Everybody was handling their grief in their own way. And so it was just very dull, very depressing. And when he passed away, after he passed away, I will probably remember maybe a week or two after he passed away. But my childhood will become a huge blur. And I wouldn't start remembering my childhood again until I turned 6 or 7. And like I said, my papa passed at 4. So that's like a whole year, a year and a half before I could start remembering my childhood again after he passed away. But the day of the funeral was sad too. And I'm not going to get into extreme details about how the funeral was and stuff like that. But the 2 days before the funeral, I felt intense joy and comfort and stuff like that because both sides of the family came down. My grandma's side of the family and my grandfather's side of the family. And this was the first time that I realized that we had a lot of family. Because like I said, essentially I grew up in a household with just me, my mom, my papa, my grandma, my uncle. So just 5 people and a dog. So when I seen all these people, it just was like, wow, like we have other family, like there's other people. And they knew how close me and my papa were. Because my papa talked about me a lot, with different family members, friends. Like my papa, like he literally lifted me up on a pedestal pretty much. But the simple fact that they knew that I was his right-hand man and he was my right-hand man, it was just a beautiful thing. I always wanted to be with my papa all the time. I wanted to be with him more than anybody else, any other family member. And like I said, he broke down God in such a way that I couldn't even question it. Like that's the goal of my channel too. Like somebody should preach the truth so much and in a pure way, a pure hearted way, that you don't have any room to question. And I'm probably going to, revamp that statement because the devil likes to pervert a lot of things. He wants us to question. He wants us to do all these things, but we're going to discuss this in many videos to come so that you can know. But my pop-up broke God down in such a way that I did not have to question anything. If my pop-up believed in God, then I was going to believe in God, and there was just no questions asked about it at all. And so I want to break down Jesus in such a way. Yeshua is his real name, but just for the purpose of, getting people to this channel, I'm going to use the name Jesus. But like I was saying, just so I can keep everything in order, the things that I'm going to say and, explain and stuff like that, it's not to tickle your ears. It's not to give you butterflies, make you feel good like, lukewarm Christians do, or New Agers do, because I'm going to be talking about both. And me, myself, I don't identify with any group at all. I am simply a child of God. And that's literally what God intended for all of us to do. But somehow, and I'm not saying all Christians are bad. I'm not saying that at all. But the Christians and the Catholics that I'm talking about that damn people to hell, and they tell people to do one thing, but they're doing the complete opposite. I'm talking about those people. And I'm talking about New Agers who think that the world is in their hand and it's the universe. And these are the people that I'm talking to. And these are the people that, slowly but surely, I will bring truth to it, because these people, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Some people are really just lost and confused. There's a lot of different ways to become lost. Church hurt, rejection. There's so many. And that's why people are so, reject Jesus in so many ways, so many aspects, because of the way that he was presented. But I'm not going to go that deep into it. We're just going to get back with my testimony. So when I lost my papa, when my papa, passed away, something inside of me changed. It changed. This is where confusion, this is like the first of many attacks that the devil started attacking me with. Many attacks. Confusion, fear and confusion was the main ones, because again, I just knew that my papa was here, woman, and now he wasn't here. He did speak to me about, going to a better place. My mom and my grandma, they preached that and they talked about that too. But it was a lot of confusion. Then that's when I started questioning God. I started questioning stuff once my pop left. And so the first time I felt intense fear was the day of his funeral, was the day of my papa's funeral. I seen him in the casket and stuff like that. It didn't bother me, stuff like that. But it wasn't until after the funeral, my mind was scattered. It was all over the place because I just lost my papa. And, we had kind of like a cookout after his funeral. And there was, kids running around, my older cousins and stuff like that. And I remember one of my older cousins, I fell asleep in her lap. And I had fell asleep. We was outside, cookout chair. And I fell asleep. And it was, the clouds. It was summer. It was, summer. So, but when I woke up, I had this very strange dream too when I fell asleep. Very, very strange dream. I'm not even going to get into the details about the dream, but yes, I still remember this dream from when I was 4 years old. So I had this dream and I woke up and I was in the pitch black, like pitch black. So I was like, what is going on? Like, I was by myself. Like, I went to sleep in the sun and woke up in the dark. So there was something in that room. Okay, this was the first time fear struck me. I don't know if anybody else remember too much with when they first experienced fear, but it's a paralyzed. I became paralyzed with fear. I never felt this feeling a day in my life, but I was very fearful because one, the dream, and then the simple fact that I was in the room alone. And eventually I got up and ran out the room, but there was something in that room. And so I don't have the ability, and I don't want the ability to see spirits. I've seen them before, but they aren't as scary now. But when I was a kid, instead of seeing them, I would feel them. And one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, and a lot of people know this, is Ephesians 6:12. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. So just because you don't see something does not mean that it's not there, that it's something not attacking you. That is the biggest misconception ever. So the enemy was pretty much using that against me to keep me in intense fear. And, shortly after my pop-pop's death and stuff like that, then my mom and my grandma tried to get me to sleep by myself. And this is really when the tormenting began for real, for real. So they kept trying to get me to sleep by myself, but at night I would, hear stuff and see stuff. And yes, you could say, it was my imagination because I was a child, whatever. But I know exactly what I saw and heard and stuff like that. So we had a family dog named Tempest, and she would sleep with me and stuff like that. But as soon as she was gone, probably like about 10-15 minutes after she would leave the room and stuff and go sleep somewhere else, I would get that intense fear because I would wake up after she would have left, and I would just go into that intense fear all over again. And so just to fast forward, get off of that, I thought about my pop-up on a daily basis. Like anything that I seen, anything that I heard, it reminded me of him. I would start crying. Like I became addicted to crying because I miss my pop-up. Like I would just cry all the time at the simplest things. And I knew my papa was still near. I knew he was still protecting me and stuff like that because I would have sweet dreams. I would have, dreams about him or just fuzzy feelings. But then there would be times where I would feel a demonic presence, an ungodly presence. And I knew it wasn't my papa because just to break it down, how it's your loved ones, your deceased loved ones, compared to if it's an ungodly presence. They are a lot heavier. They are a lot louder. And when I say louder, I don't mean an audible noise or anything like that. Like, when somebody is sneaking up behind you, but you can't see them, but you feel them, that's the type of presence that it is. Whereas your family members, they don't want to scare you. So they're not going to make themselves known like that. They're not, half the time you won't even know that they're right there in front of your face because they don't want to scare you. Godly presences, they understand that we will be fearful. So they're not as loud, they don't do too much. But with ungodly presences, they do. They be trying to be all, trying to make it seem like they're your loved ones, if that makes sense. But even after my papa's death, also, people tried to use my pop-up against me. They would like get me to try to swear or get me to try to do things, essentially with my pop-up. And it was just, it was very manipulative when people would do that. But even after my papa's death, and like I said, I'm getting into, how I got, grouped into religion, but just be patient. So there was other influential, I don't want to say influential, but there was other impacting deaths that happened after my grandfather, but it was only about 2 more. It was a friend in high school, and it was my dance teacher that passed away from breast cancer. I'm not going to dig too deep into them, but I'm going to give you, kind of an overview, just a little bit. But just starting with my dance teacher. She was another very influential person in my life. Another one of my biggest mentors. She influenced a lot of people. And the one thing that I loved about her is that she was not judgmental at all. Like, around the time that I met her is when I first started becoming sexual and, dating boys and, all that good stuff. And it's not that I didn't have my mom or my grandma there. I did, but they weren't the right mix. So like my mom, she was a little bit too real. Like she just kept it too real. And my grandma, she was like very timid. Like she was just like, I can't really, well, she never said that she couldn't talk to me about this stuff, but my grandma carries herself in a certain way. So she's not as open with certain stuff. And my dance teacher, she was like the right balance. Like she was, real enough to the point where it's like, okay, this is that, but soft enough that it was like basically like an aunt. That's basically how I view her, was an aunt, because you can tell an aunt something and they won't run and tell your mom or your grandma or anything like that. Like what stays between y'all two, stay between y'all two, because you know, potentially if I told my mom something or if I told my grandma something, I was gonna get in trouble. So it's like she was that comforting person. We had many sessions. We didn't just talk about boys and stuff like that. We talked about a lot of different things and stuff like that. She was just someone that helped me along the way. But I remember when I first found out that she was sick and she had breast cancer. It was October or November 2016, and I wasn't supposed to know, but her daughter's cousin told me and another friend, and we were both told not to say anything, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get that friend in trouble, or I didn't want to get that person in trouble, you know, because that is a family matter. So I was just waiting for her to tell me, because like I said, she shared stuff about herself, I shared stuff about myself that I didn't tell anybody. So I was just like, okay, when are you gonna tell me? When are you gonna tell me? And so she never told me. You know, it just took for her to pass away for me to, you know, for it to be revealed. And I was hurt. I was upset at her for probably, you know, a year or so after her death. And, you know, now I'm fine, I'm better, you know, stuff like that. And I realized that it was selfish for being upset because it was a family matter. And she did believe that family was scarce and stuff like that. But I was still upset. And I can't help my feelings with that. But, and just to break off just for a quick second, during the whole dance period, so the way how dance works is just like we go to school from September to June, is the same thing with dancing. We go from dance from September to June, right? And we have the recital, whatever. So we basically talked throughout the whole entire school year. She pretty much knew what was going on. And, you know, summer break, you know, we come back in September. But at this point, I wouldn't be coming back in September because I was going into the military. So, but I would text her here and there throughout the summer, you know, see, you know, what she was doing and yada, yada, yada. But the weeks leading up, it's like probably like 2 weeks, maybe a week before she actually, you know, passed away and stuff like that, I kept getting a sense that something was going to happen. And to just branch off real quick, just like God has the ability to give us certain gifts to see certain stuff for an appointed time or for a special reason, the devil also has the ability to give us certain abilities, things to, you know, that we're not supposed to see or whatever the case is, to try to mess up God's plan, God's will, stuff like that. And so I had this ability to see when, you know, when people were going to die, but I never knew exactly who the person was. I just knew when death was near, and I didn't like it. And so I knew this death was going to be somebody close, but I didn't know exactly who. And that's what made me mad. But the day that she passed away, I remember everybody who was associated with her in some type of way, they all were texting me. And so I remember I was helping a customer, and I'm like, I know she ain't just died. And the customer was like, what, excuse me? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you, you know. And I finished helping that customer, and I grabbed my phone and I called my stepmom, and she's trying to, you know, figure out where I'm at so she don't break the news down to me. And I'm like, no, at this point, just tell me, because you doing too much. Like, I already know, I just need the confirmation, just tell me. And she told me, and I just broke down in the break room, and my general manager came, and she kind of like calmed me down, and, you know, I went home for the day. But when she passed away, that really hit me very, 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 very hard. I can't even describe the pain that I was in. And it wasn't even something like with my Popup, because, you know, with my Popup basically prepped me for his death the whole time when I was little. Because like I said, my grandfather had been sick since I was since I was born. So he had always told me never to be sad about death and things like that. But when I lost my Popup, I was 4. When I lost my dance teacher, I was 18. So imagine, like, I'm about to, you know, join the military. Like, this is the person that I literally went to about any type of advice, everything you can possibly think of. And it really did hit me hard. But I got grouped into religion. School perverted my thought processes. They made people they made God essentially seem scary, judgmental, the complete opposite of what my pop-up, told me about God. So just, I don't want to say so I could fit in, but just so I could be I guess you can say yes, just so I could fit in, not be the person to be, God's not like that. I start hopping on a bandwagon, like, oh, you going to hell for doing that, you going to hell for doing that, like, you can't do this. And this was literally through, it didn't start until middle school. So this was literally like middle school, like beginning of high school. Later down the line, high school, people wasn't really talking about God or anything like that. Everybody was wrapped up in drama and nonsense, disgusting. But because I was in it too. But the past is the past. But like I said, like, I was out here basically telling everybody that they was going to hell. And in my household, we weren't the family that, we were very outspoken, but we weren't the family that was, judgmental or religious or anything like that. Like, I literally picked this up off of other kids and stuff like that. And like, even one of my friends, like, she gonna watch this video, she know we used to be like kind of like stuck up because her grandmother is a pastor. So like, she learned certain stuff, so that I was picking up certain stuff off of her, like, oh yeah, you can't do that because you going to hell. But she don't think like that no more either. But this is what type of time we was on in middle school, first year of high school type stuff. And so, like I said, high school was essentially when I started, getting into boys. Like, I lost my virginity at 15, and a lot of stuff started, happening, whatever. And so my mom and my grandma, they seen that I was becoming unfocused, not demon possessed, but they kept saying I had a lot of darkness over me and, stuff like that. And I didn't really know what that meant, because the only thing I knew about the devil was that he was bad, and everything wrong, bad that happened was because of him. Wrong misconception. That's exactly how people have accountability issues, and they don't take accountability for the things that they do because they so busy pointing a finger at the devil. Like, at the end of the day, we have free will, we have a choice. If you want to sit here and listen to the whispers of the devil, that's on you. You can't do that. Literally, the devil, all he does is try to get us to do things, but it's up to us if we want to, follow through with it. But getting back to it, my grandma, she bought me my first Bible, right? My very first Bible, not the child Bible, but my very first Bible. And I did not know how to read it. If I could literally inject, if I could have had a DVD player, in my head and inject the Bible into my head, I would. But we know that it don't work like that. We know it don't work like that. But I just knew it was important. Like, even when I was little, and after like my papa died and stuff like that, and my mom, she found out that she was bipolar and stuff, and she was going through her things since she lost her dad, and her and my grandma would argue a lot. I would always pick up the Bible. I would always pick up the cross. Like, I would always pick up something related and with God, because I knew God had control. But like I said, I never really fully understood God for myself. Like, I didn't really know. And my grandma and my mom, they didn't teach me how to read the Bible. I had to kind of figure that out for myself. Because like I said, we weren't an overly religious family. It wasn't a religious family. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you need to read the Bible. Like, it wasn't like that. So I had got my very first Bible, but I didn't know how to read it. And I knew God was real. Again, like I said, I just didn't understand him. And this is really how New Age really got me, because I didn't understand God. And this is how New Age gets a lot of people. You can become lost in many ways. And that's why a lot of people run to New Age, because you can become lost. Like, you could have went through church hurt, rejection, can't be yourself, lots of different things. That's why people stray away from, what's it called, being a Christian, or going to some type of church or anything like that. Religion is man-made, okay? It's relationship over religion all day, every day. And until people understand this, we will continue to be in this group of separation, in this cycle of separation. Just think about how sneaky and conniving the devil is. Just imagine when everybody, went to different places around the world, got scattered throughout the world and stuff and throughout the nations. Just imagine the devil, the sneaky snake that he is, running around to different countries like, hey, this is how you worship God. Hey, over here, this is how you worship God. And then just everybody just completely just merge like, oh, no, this is how you worship. And everybody just at each other's neck. Like, it's really not supposed to be no type of religion. It's literally spirituality. And it's funny because with New Age spirituality is not new at all. Like, it's documented throughout the whole entire Bible. But we're going to get into that. But he's sneaky. He literally was going around telling people, just like how, if we go back to the first, the first story that everybody know, Adam and Eve. He did not sneak around and come to Adam and Eve about the apple. He went to Eve, and then Eve went to Adam. And that's how everything, got messed up. He waits to get a certain group of people by themselves to corrupt their mindset. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So it's not fun being lost. You can, like I said, you can become lost in many ways. But when you're lost, that's how you're more susceptible to attacks and, attacks and torment and things like that. So that's how I kind of got grouped into religion because, even with certain topics, and I'm not going to say that right now in this video, but with certain topics, I just didn't agree with, the Bible with certain topics. But over time, God has revealed them to me and why things were said. And we're going to talk about literally the next video after this is going to be breaking down the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and how they work together and why we don't do certain things that we do, and why certain things are the way that they are. So please bear with me. And like every video is not going to be this long. But now we're going into how I got grouped into New Age. Okay. So my mom came home, and this is around the time when I first found out that my dance teacher had breast cancer. So my mom came home and she told me and my grandma about this psychic lady. I'm going to leave her name anonymous until, because you never know. One day she might see this video. But my mom came home. She told us about this psychic lady, this medium lady. And she said she spoke to my papa. So my ears went, my papa, huh? You said my papa? And my grandma heard too. She was like, oh, I'm not about to pass up the opportunity to hear about my husband. Although in our family, we were always taught that, tarot, psychics, mediums, all that stuff was, a no-go, voodoo, all that. Leave it alone. It's not supposed to be a thing. But we was not about to pass up the opportunity about hearing about my papa. So she told us all this stuff about my papa and stuff like that. And it was intriguing, but I wouldn't go see the lady for myself until a year after my dance teacher passed away. And I remember when I first went with my mom, because I want my mom to go see the lady. I didn't go by myself. I went with her. And so she was so excited to see me. Like, so excited to see me. And she ran over and she gave me a hug. And me and my mom both thought that was weird because it was just like, my mom was like, well, we talked about this later, but she was like, she didn't give me no hug when she first met me. And, now it didn't take me till 2-3 years later to realize that my light was on. And when I say my light was on, meaning that, 1, I was lost. 2, I'm a child of God. So whatever spirits or energy she was working with, they smelt that like, oh, this is fresh meat. Like, this is fresh prey. Like, we can get her. And because I didn't really know, like I said, I always believe in God and stuff like that. But at this point in my life, he's on the back burner. He's not at the forefront of my life. And like I said, I'm 18, about to get ready to turn 19 soon. So she's like, oh, like, da-da-da-da-da. Like trying to, make me feel comfortable and stuff like that. And so I remember when we got in there, because my mom, I'm sorry, let me go back. So essentially, when we first got there, she was like, oh, trying to elude her magical powers on me. Like, oh, I need you to see this. she was like, oh, so which one of you guys have to pee? Because I feel it. Like, I feel like someone has to pee. And my mom was like, oh, well, I have to pee. And I was like, and I'm just like, okay, great. You knew she had to use the bathroom. Duh, that's common sense, because we did just drive like 45 minutes here. Of course she would have to use the bathroom. But she knew I wasn't feeling her like that at first. So she kept trying to be nice and stuff like that. And so the lady, just getting back talking about the lady. The lady wasn't a normal psychic, you know, how they be having the cards and the jewelry and this elaborate headpiece and stuff like that. She was not a normal psychic lady. She was a middle-aged, you know, lady, you know, jolly, brightly colored. She didn't look crazy, but there was something still off about her. Something very still off about her. So, you know, just to talk about the enemy, the devil, for a little bit. The devil shows up as a being of light. He's very cunning. He knows how to, you know, make himself look a certain way, present himself in a certain way so that we can come near him. We not about to go near him with some red horns and a little tail and, you know, this stereotypical demon. No, he know we not gonna go towards him willingly looking like that. So he gotta change costumes. He gotta put on something. So at first, you know, I didn't even want to be by her by myself, but she essentially asked why I came to her, you know, what I was there for that time. And so, you know, I just simply told her that I was there to speak to, you know, my Popup and my dance teacher. And so she's like, oh, well, you know, there are 2 males here, and one's a younger male and one's an older gentleman. And, you know, and I'm like, who? And so she starts explaining who this person is. And it took me a minute, but it was my friend who passed away in high school. And I'm not going to get into the details about everything, but if y'all know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. Kudos. But this friend, or whatever the case is, you know, she tried to make me feel good and, you know, boost me up by saying, you know, trying to elude me, reel me in by saying, oh, you know, everybody thought his death was a suicide and it wasn't, and da 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 da, you know, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, so I was right. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. So, you know, just like you know your past, just like God knows your past, so do demons. So do demons. Demons know your past too. Okay? So it's funny to me, you know, when you know, people are playing with the cards, and I can talk about this stuff because I was the one who was doing this. I was doing this stuff. You know, play with the cards, and, you know, or people going to psychics and stuff like that, and they're like, oh yeah, this and this and this happened. It's all psychology. So if I can tell you your past fluently and, you know, your present fluently, I can make up anything about your future that I want. I can make up anything about your future because I know your past. And now that's how I reel you in, because since I know your past, you're like, well, you have to know the future too. You know my past. You wasn't even there. Oh, they were there. You just couldn't see them. So, and like, if you are on Instagram and, you know, you're a part of the occult stuff, or whatever the case is, and, you know, you have them high priestess and priestess or whatever to call it. And if you don't know what that is, awesome. If you know what that is, good. But if you don't know what that is, awesome. You don't want to know. But in their bios, they always have like a master's in psychology, a bachelor's in psychology. That's not for no reason. It's not for no reason. There's a reason for that. And this is why when you know, messing with, you know, spirit, speaking to the dead, you know, coming out with your future, this and that stuff, that's how you invite tormenting spirits in. And that's what I did. I invited tormenting spirits into my life, into me. And so this is why the Bible, and I wrote these down, this is why the Bible warns multiple times against magical arts, occult stuff, witchcraft, all that stuff, and stop practicing like the pagans did, because that's how you invite tormenting spirits in. And a lot of New Agers, they have problems with scriptures like Leviticus chapter 19, verse 31, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 10 through 12, Isaiah 8:19, James 1:5. They have a problem with these because they believe that it is hypocrisy and that the Bible is just, hypocritical and stuff like that. But the only reason why they think that is because they've never picked up the Bible and, read everything in it. They pick apart pieces and then they don't even sit with the stuff that they learn, because there's been several times where I have come across verses in the Bible that I've been confused with, and I let God over time reveal those scriptures to me and what they mean. And so the reason why they have problems with this stuff is because it goes against what they're doing. And so in the Old Testament, back then people offered sacrifices for their sins. And like I said, everything that God does, the devil comes in to perverts it. So something that was used for a particular thing, the devil comes in and uses it for a different purpose, a different intention, and messes up everything so that it's all confused and misconstrued and stuff like that. But in the Old Testament, it talks about offering sacrifices and stuff. But the only reason why sacrifices was a thing was for people's sins. Because people back then, they burnt, rams and cows and chickens and stuff like that for their sins. But then the devil took that, and then, next thing you know, you have people sacrificing babies and children and all types of crazy stuff. Wait, what? Slow down. And another thing that people don't understand is that with the Old Testament, it's the old way. It's the old way. It's an old covenant in a sense. And it's funny because I don't really like saying covenant, but covenant is in the Bible. And again, like I said, the devil takes things and he perverts it for a different type of purpose. So the Old Testament equals old covenant, what they used to do. New Testament equals new covenant and what we do now. And that's literally essentially why Jesus was sent. Because like I said, God was tired of them stink behind cows, chickens, being, slaughtered up on, these poor innocent animals being slaughtered for people's sins. Just imagine how smoky the earth would be if everybody would to go take Mr. Billy Goat up on the mountain and go kill him. The world will be so smoky. None of us will be able to see because we out here killing the rams every single time that we sinned. Just imagine. Just imagine right now in this day and age. So Jesus, Yeshua, he was sent as one last living sacrifice, pretty much. Because like I said, God was tired of smelling them stink things. He was like, come on, man. Come on, man. Even the devil, he knows the truth. He knows the Bible. He even tried to lie to Jesus himself, Yeshua himself. And that's what, I'm not going to say all New Agers, but that's what a lot of New Agers do. That's what a lot of people who are so, anti-Jesus do. They only pick apart bits and pieces of the scripture and try to pervert them, just like the devil did to Jesus when he was in the wilderness. And if you want to fact check me, go read Matthew 4, chapter 4. This is when Jesus had just came out of a 40-day fast. And, the devil was trying to get him to come on his side. And he literally took a part of the Bible and was like, come up to this cliff and, jump off this cliff. And God will send down his strongest angels and you will, no harm will come to you. And Jesus took that word and he threw it back at him. And he said, but it is also written, but it is also written, but it is also written that do not put God to the test. So people be so quick to try to downplay the Bible or try to pervert the word of the Bible because of their own purposes, to fit their own purpose and their own secret agendas and stuff like that, just like the devil did. And this was Jesus, the one who died on the cross. This was him who was even himself tempted by the devil. So just like he can tempt us, just like he can tempt Jesus, he can tempt us. You're not safe from that. But you have a decision, you have a choice to make. And this isn't a guilt trip either. To new agers or anybody that's practicing, occult stuff and stuff like that still. You can be, forgiven and healed and all that stuff if you just repent. And when I say repent, it means turn from your old ways. That's all you got to do. You just got to stop what you're doing. And you will be forgiven. But enough of that. So, back to the psychic lady. So, when we were talking about my friend, she, started jam-packing stuff, and then she mentioned a certain situation. Some people, they know about this situation. If you don't, this is the first time you hear it. But basically, somebody was trash-talking my friend, right? And I, lost it, and I started going off on that person. I had to be escorted out the classroom, etc., etc. So she tried to tell me that, my friend was there that day and, he was watching me and, he just wanted to say thank you. And when she told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, see, da, 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 da. And I was excited. But it wasn't until 2 to 3 years later, me sitting here making this video now and stuff like that, that I realized that it wasn't him who was watching me. It was the devil and his demons watching me. Because you got to think, if he just passed away, don't you think he would be paying attention to his family? Not me. He will be with his family because they're mourning for him. So it was, back then I didn't understand spiritual warfare when she initially told me this. So I did not, I was all excited and stuff like that. See, I told y'all, But just looking back, that wasn't him who was watching me. But we gonna keep going. And so even when she told me about, my pop-up and my dance teacher and stuff like that, the things that she said was very much true. They were very much 100% accurate. I'm not gonna get into details and stuff that she told me, but it was 100% accurate. But again, just like I know my past, just like God knows my past, so do the demons. So do the demons. So, with the enemy, he's very sneaky. He's very cunning, okay? He knows how to make things glitter, but it's not gold. And so even when you were talking about new agers and stuff like that, new age spirituality, it's really not new. It's religion. I don't know where, they got this notation that they are better than religion, that they know everything and stuff like that. It is a religion. New age spirituality is a religion. And like I was saying, history repeats itself. As we advance, so do demons. They advance. Like I said, everything that glitter is not gold. The devil is very sneaky and he's very cunning and he knows exactly how to make things glitter, but it's not gold. So eventually, throughout the time that I was with the psychic, she noticed that I started becoming curious. And there was a part where this creeped me out. She actually was in my head. So I thought something in my head, but she answered me out loud. And I asked her, could she not do that no more? And she apologized and she said she wouldn't do it no more throughout the thing. But the sense, just thinking, the sense that she was reading my thoughts, that was demonic. That was extremely demonic. So when she started telling me my future and stuff like that, I'm not going to get into details what she told me, but a lot of stuff that she said did come true. And hence I said some came true. The reason why only some came true is because the devil, the enemy, whatever you want to call him, he only knows half the truth. The only being that knows the whole picture and the whole truth is God himself. you know, Jehovah. God has many names, as you know. But when, you know, no matter how much of something might be true, whatever the case is, if it's half truth, it's a lie. No matter how you try to cut, slice, dice it, lay it on the bread, it is a lie regardless. So, just like, you know, the devil did it to Jesus or whatever the case is, and he tried to, you know, take bits and pieces out of the word, yes, God will send down his angels concerning you. But it is also written that don't put God to the test. Don't just go jump off the cliff just because you're trying to test God to see what he gonna do. So it's like the devil took half truth and not the full picture and slapped it on there. And see, I know a lot of people, especially, you know, the new age community, people that's still working in the cult and stuff like that, they might come at my neck. But I just know that my God is the King of Kings. So just like Elisha and his servant, which is 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 8 through 23, just like when they were physically surrounded by an army, two people were physically surrounded by a whole army, right? And the servant started panicking. He was panicking. He was like, oh my gosh, we finna die. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. And Elisha is trying to tell his servant to calm down. We are covered. We are covered regardless. And he's like, what do you mean we're covered regardless? You don't see all these people? And they, like I said, they were completely surrounded by a whole army. So Elisha was like, Lord, please give him spiritual eyes so that he can see. Because he don't know. He don't know that you got us for real. Please give him the spiritual eyes so that he can see. So God gave the servant spiritual eyes, and the servant finally calmed down. And he was like, whew. Oh yeah, jump. I bet y'all won't jump now. That's how Elisha's servant was coming, because, you know, so many times in our life when we have, you know, actual enemies and stuff like that, we don't know that God got us regardless. So just like that, them two was surrounded by a full army. And then once his servant got the spiritual eyes and stuff like that, and he looked out and he seen that it was more people than, you know, more of God's army than there was the physical army. And he calmed down. That's the same thing I feel like. So I know I might get slaughtered with my testimony and, you know, probably coming at the new agers or lukewarm Christians and stuff like that. But guess what? I'm prepared. Because if y'all jump at me, trust me, God gonna jump on y'all. Y'all not coming at me, y'all coming at God. Because all I'm doing is speaking the truth. Because there's been several times God has rebuked me because I either said something too soon or it was on my own understanding. So trust me when I say that he will put me in check if I am leading anybody astray. But like I'm saying, like I'm about my Father's business. I really don't care who try to come at me, say anything sideways. Oh, look at her. I don't care about none of that. None of that. Because I know what I was led to do and called to do. But getting back to what I'm saying, and also let me just say this is not coming from a holier than thou place. Not at all. Because I was on both sides of the fence. I was on the religious side. I was on the new age occult stuff side. So I can speak the way that I'm speaking right now because I was there. I went through both sides. These are my experiences. And you know, being courageous enough to share my experiences. But at the end of the day, I do this for God's kingdom. And he can use anybody. He can literally use anybody. That's how he gets the glory. He does not get the glory with working in the holier than thou people. He gets the glory from taking dirty people, making them clean. Almost like a magic trick. And I don't want to call it a magic trick, but that's essentially what it is. He does not get the glory for working with righteous people. You know, we want to see something new be done. But going back to this testimony, I was wrapped in so deep with the psychic lady, and I wasn't living in the present. That's how I invited the tormenting spirit in, because I wasn't living in the present. I was so worried about the future and doing this and doing that. And let's just say I went to the lady about 5 more times, and every time I went to her, her prices kept going up and up and up, and I just kept giving her my money. And this is how the devil and psychics cover themselves. They put the blame on you. So they say that, oh, this didn't happen, because like if they're telling you your future and say certain things don't play out, right? They'll blame it on you. They'll be like, oh, well, this happened, or it didn't happen because you picked up 3 pennies instead of 2. And they basically put the blame on you. You hear how crazy that sound? You mess up your future because you went left instead of right. That is crazy. That is ridiculous. But this is the cycle that I was in, and I truly believe that I messed up my future. And the one thing about it is that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, whatever the case may be, one thing you cannot do is mess up or stop God's will. You cannot stop God's will at all. He made you. You didn't make yourself. The only thing you can do is prolong it with the help of the devil. But you cannot stop it. It's going to happen regardless. Whatever you're running from is still going to happen. All you're doing is prolonging your process, prolonging what God has planned for you. And until people realize that, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle over and over and over again. But fast forward, so I was in boot camp, and at this point, I was promoting this lady because I do have a gift or ability of influence. So I am, good with influencing people. And there's nothing wrong with influencing people when you're doing it in the right way. Because my gift was distorted. I was promoting somebody that didn't know what they was talking about. Or I can't say they didn't know what they was talking about, but my gift was perverted, essentially. I was using it for the wrong purpose and promoting somebody that, life is not in their hands. So when I got after boot camp and tech school and stuff like that, I got in a state of depression because now I had to make new friends. I was no longer around the same friends that I, met in Texas and Mississippi and stuff like that. And at this point, I got stationed in Oklahoma. So I basically had to start from the ground up and meet new people and level up all over again. And I was depressed for a good 3 months, on and off. And this is how New Age got me. New Age gets you when you're wounded, when, you're hurt, and that's how New Age works. When you've been rejected from being yourself, and, all types of things. Like I said, there's many different ways that you can become lost and wounded and stuff and turn to New Age. There's many ways you can do it. So, and this is the part of the story where a lot of my peers, I'm not even going to say friends, because a lot of my friends, they know the stuff that I was doing and they accept me and they love me no matter what. But this is when a lot of my peers are going to look at me sideways. This is when I started, participating in witchcraft. And yes, I said witchcraft. And when I say witchcraft, please don't be over here thinking that I was over here chopping up babies and, goats and smearing blood. No. Witchcraft is witchcraft, no matter how you slice it, dice it, lay it on the bread. There's different types. It don't have to be nothing on an extreme, like, candle magic is one, spiritual baths, like, it's stuff like that. Like, little stuff like that. It wasn't anything crazy. But, like I said, I was in complete, isolation. But I never gave up on God. I never gave up on him. But again, he was still on the back burner. He wasn't, getting any type of glory. Like, it was always me. I was trying to build myself up. I was trying to promote myself, get myself together. And it was so much work trying to get myself together, when all I had to do was turn to him the whole time. And so many times, just humankind, we want to stay in this this cycle of trying to fix everything ourselves. Like, oh, I'm gonna build myself up, I'm gonna get myself together. Well, all you gotta do is turn to God. He made you. He know exactly who you are. He knew you before you were even in your mother's womb. He had plans for you. So I don't understand why we fight so hard to try to build ourselves up instead of just looking to the person who made us. So I just didn't know, how to talk to God anymore, because the way that, some Christians, and like I keep saying, I'm gonna keep saying some because it's not all, but some Christians, they try to say, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta talk to God like this, you can't you can't wear this to church, you can't So like they tried to make it seem like you had to be perfect, holier than thou to go to God. No stain, no crease. You had to be completely perfect. So I got that idea in my head, and I don't know where people got that idea that you had to be perfect to go talk to God. I don't know. But God does not get any glory for working with righteous people. He doesn't. There's no glory in it. Not saying that, righteous people are bad, nothing like that. No, it's not like that. But I'm so tired of churches and, religious backgrounds, punching people down for, their past and stuff like that, and trying to make it seem like they can't get back up, and, it's only one person, and, like just silly stuff. But when I was getting, when I was in a state of depression, I came across this person, and I'm not going to say his music or anything like that, but a lot of people, I kind of put a lot of people on, and a lot of people actually found him themselves. But, he has a book, he has an app, he has music and stuff on iTunes, and he basically talks about all types of spirituality. Like, he talks about Buddha, he talks about Jesus, he talks about Dalai Lama, he talks about all of them grouped together. Big mistake. But I got grouped with him, and when I got grouped with him, or I found him or discovered him when I was in a really low place, I started becoming more and more hungry for knowledge. And, I came interested with the chakras and the crystals and the incense and the sage and all that stuff. I became grouped into it. And I started learning about the Kundalini spirit. Don't even get me started on the Kundalini spirit. It is the off-brand, the knockoff brand of the Holy Spirit. Point blank, period. Take it how you want it if you're still working with the little Kundalini spirit. It is demonic. It is a demon. It is an off-brand of the Holy Spirit, because everything that God does, the devil tries to take it and switch it and pervert it and make his own counterfeit. Just like, example, let's just talk about Avengers. Or Spider-Man real quick. You know how you got Spider-Man and you got Venom? Yeah, that's basically what the devil does. So when I was in this new age, I became very prideful. I started looking at everybody sideways, like they were mortals and peasants and all types of stuff. Like I was, better than them. Like, oh, they all sleep and I'm woke. Like the people that be screaming they woke be so sleep. They be so sleep. They be knocked out cold and comas. And like I said, I'm not judging nobody. I can only speak from my experiences and how I was looking at myself. Because this is exactly what it is. I was over here thinking I was a god and goddess, and I could do this, I could do that, and all that stuff. But you got to think, how do you think the devil got kicked out of heaven? Because he was extremely prideful. He thought he could do it better than God, and he failed. He already lost. But right now, it's so many people that's working for him and don't even realize it. New Age is basically, they were on their high horse, basically believe that humanity is damned. They're fake woke. And that fake wokeness, that's the Jezebel spirit. The Jezebel spirit can hop on man or woman. It doesn't have to be, just a woman or whatever the case is. But back to like what my story is. when I started participating in the witchcraft, people was just doing too much, and it was always in my space and in my bubble. So I called a psychic lady, and I'm like, look, they annoying me. What do I do? You know, how is this going to turn out? And this is when she gave me my first bit of witchcraft. And she's like, oh, that's no biggie. All you got to do is, you know, go home, write their name on a piece of paper, you know, put it in, you know, some water and freeze it. That was my first bit of witchcraft. Everybody be like, that's witchcraft? Yes. Yes, it's witchcraft. It's considered witchcraft, yes. So that was my first little taste of any type of witchcraft. So, and don't get me wrong, witchcraft and stuff, all that stuff works. It definitely does work, because the ice thing, it definitely worked. But what side are you on? What side are you on? That's the question that you need to ask yourself when you're doing those things. If you're still in the new age stuff and the occult stuff, what side did you pick? That's what you got to question yourself with. And even because if you think the reason why it works is because when God kicked Satan out of heaven, he didn't revoke his powers. He still had power. So the devil was able to still show us stuff and, you know, tell us to do this and tell us to do that with the little bit of power that he had. But until you step into your true ordained power and authority, you won't pick up on what's the devil's or what's God's, you know? And we'll talk about this, like I said, there's many videos to come. But I'm trying to focus on this testimony. And with like black magic, you know, witchcraft and all that stuff, it's just instant gratification. It's just instant gratification. It's like a drug. You know, you're happy for a certain amount of time and then you go right back into sadness and depression. Like whatever drug you hit, you know, you might be numb in the moment, but sooner or later when you wake back up or whatever the case is, you're sad again, you're depressed again, you know, all that stuff. It's like a repeated cycle. So like things that's considered new agey, chakras, planets, zodiac signs, yes, zodiac signs, but etc. It's a lot of stuff that is considered new age. That's why the book of Ecclesiastes is in the Bible. The book of Ecclesiastes is about how, you know, you can have all this wisdom, but at the end of the day, all of it does not matter, because that's not the end. You can have all this great knowledge and stuff like that, but it's not gonna feed you. You can read as many books on the planets, on the zodiac signs, but what does it do? How does it help humanity? It doesn't. It doesn't. And it's just a wild goose chase. And ever since I've come back out of, you know, religion and new age stuff, I feel 1,000 times better. Not just 100 times better, 1,000 times better, because I don't have to, you know, do this, do that, just, I don't have to go all over the place with it, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm covered by the blood of Jesus, by the blood of Yeshua. And I'm going to explain that in a different video, because that's something else that new agers like to manipulate and pervert by like, oh, that sounds like witchcraft to me. No, you don't know the whole context and you don't know the whole story. But that's going to literally be the next video on breaking down the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. But I started getting caught up in the YouTube videos and stuff like that with zodiac signs. And I had already been big into zodiac signs since middle school and high school. So it wasn't really new. And I'm like still healing from it because, you know, like they say, oh, I'm a Leo, whatever, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So, like, you know, certain stuff, like, I might still joke around with. But at the end of the day, I know my source and I know the truth and stuff like that. But I started, you know, cross-watching. And for people who don't know what cross-watching is, it's essentially, like, depending on, you know, if you're a certain sign, you're watching for another sign to get information from that side, if that makes sense. So I was doing that, and I was, like I said, it was instant gratification when I was doing, you know, chakras and stuff like that. And then I would go into another state of depression, and it was just disgusting. And so I tried to meditate and whatever the case is, but my meditation ended up turning into prayer, an hour-long prayer of me just, you know, crying and stuff like that, because I was in a lot of despair. Like, I didn't even realize an hour went by. I was in that much despair because of, you know, just stuff that happened, like, you know, childhood stuff and childhood trauma, not my pop-up or anything like that, but other things that happened to me. So I was just in a thing of despair, and I ended up praying and stuff. But since I was still attached to, you know, the new age stuff, I felt good and stuff after I got done crying, and, you know, I felt better. Like, you know, I was calling out for God. I wasn't calling out for no other type of spirits or anything like that. I was calling out for God. I felt good. But since I was still attached to that way of being, I was like, oh, now I gotta go find a YouTube video. Now I gotta go find a reading. I gotta go. Like, I was itching for it. I was itching for it. And so God was like, bro, how you just get done crying at me and doing all this whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, but now you finna go run, hop, and skip back to try to find some videos for instant gratification? I don't understand you. It looks like you want to take this the long road. So the long road you shall go. And so after I was in a state of depression, this is when I came into the good stuff, I guess. But I came across Pretty Boss TV. And, you know, my spiritual community who's going to see this, they know who Kendra is. They know who Kendra Justine is, and Pretty Boss. And I'm going to just give her a quick shout out. She has also been another huge influence on my life and another big mentor in my life. She was also grouped into New Age and stuff like that. I was just really, when I found her video, even though I didn't agree with everything that she was talking about, I just really was drawn to her character and how she carried herself. She had this respect and this this respect for herself, basically. And I just like the way that she carried herself, because she reminded me of my dance teacher, but she also reminded me of an older version of myself, if that makes sense. And it wasn't in an idol way. Like, I wasn't looking at her to be an idol or anything like that. Like, I just genuinely liked the way that she carried herself and how she spoke and stuff like that. But there was this other girl too that I had got close with that was in the New Age and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say her name because there's no ill will and she might see this video. But I got really close with her too. And she was like older than me. She was like in her, like probably like her 30, something like that. But she was still into New Age stuff, and she still is into the new age stuff. And I kind of had to, you know, remove myself and just break contact with her because we're just not on the same plane anymore. You know, we're not. Yeah, she started doing, she doesn't know this, but she kind of pushed me back to God when she said a certain statement, but we'll talk about that in a second. But essentially I found Kendra on Patreon, well, on YouTube, and then I followed her Patreon. But I was scouting her out on YouTube since November 2019 to February of 20. I was just scouting her out. And then she did this reading for me. She gave me my own personal reading, and it was just so spot on. I was like, oh, this the real deal. She is the real deal. She know what she talking about. And I completely forgot about the other psychic lady that I was seeing back at home, the one that I was promoting. I was like, oh, now we finna roll with her because she really the real deal and she know what she talking about. Even though she wasn't using her gifts in the right way, like I said, they were perverted. They weren't the right way and stuff like that. I was still drawn to her character. And, you know, not everything, me, like, you know, following her channel and stuff like that, I didn't learn everything from her. I learned it by myself, but she kind of enhanced it. So, like, I started getting, you know, more into oracle cards, and I swore up and down oracle cards was safe because they wasn't tarot cards. I knew I had to stay away from tarot cards, but oracle cards was safe because it wasn't tarot. Big mistake, big mistake. But I would do everything. I would do candle magic, I would do spiritual baths, I would do crystals, incense, sage, new moon, full moon, planets, retrogrades, all that stuff. I would pay attention to all that stuff. Anything astrology, paid attention to it. But the one thing that I did not participate in is working with deities. That's something I was like, skirt. No, because I still believe that it was only one God. And that's something I couldn't. But with me working with the girl that I had got close with or whatever, she was working with a deity. I'm not going to fully call out the deity, but let's just say the color is yellow and sunflowers. If you know what yellow and sunflowers mean, you know what deity I'm talking about. But we're not going to get into that deep. So she pushed me back to God because before I get there, so don't get me wrong, it's nothing wrong with, crystals, whatever, whoop-de-whoop-whoop. If you like them, they just cute little rocks. They become a problem, and the devil uses them to pervert the purpose of it when you make it an idol. When you constantly are like, oh, like, I gotta get this because, if I get this stone, it's gonna set up all my shop. Like, once you become, like, addicted to it, that's when the devil can come in and start tormenting you. So God makes everything at the end of the day, but again, the devil perverts it. He perverts the purpose for it. And it's very important that you don't idolize anything or put anything above God. That's literally what an idol is. An idol doesn't have to be a physical person. It doesn't have to be an object or anything like that. It's simply just putting something before God. That's what an idol is. Point blank, period. So we don't need no ancestors, angels, none of that stuff, because like it's nothing wrong with having pictures of your deceased loved ones, caring and honoring your loved ones, but it becomes wrong when you honor them before you honor God. Like you got to go pray to the ancestor altar and just water and all this crazy stuff. And that's how the girl that I was close with, she pushed me back to God, because this one specific spell that I did, or whatever the case is, and I already asked God to, forgive me for it, and I already prayed for it, and he already gave me my own little personal punishment for it. But when I did the little spell that I did, it was to get somebody else away from me, because this person was a very toxic person, and they just kept coming after me, pretty much. They wouldn't leave me alone for whatever reason. I kept giving so many hints because I wasn't a direct person, and I didn't have the proper boundaries that I have now. So I would constantly just let this person basically treat me however they wanted to treat me. And so I kept trying to do this one specific spell. But here's the thing. Demons cannot cast out other demons. So like I said, spells work. But all you can do is you can stop a demon, but when they come back, they're going to come back 10 times harder. So every time I was trying to do this little spell, the person would keep coming back harder, harder, and harder. Because, again, demons cannot cast out other demons. You cannot use magic against other demons. You just can't do it. You can do it against each other, but essentially you're destroying each other, because people do black magic and do spells and whatever voodoo against each other, when you shouldn't even be trying to do that in the first place. And so when I was supposedly woke and whoop-de-whoop, all this stuff, I ended up in a very bad situation. And that's the situation I'm talking about with the person that was very tormenting to me. And so she got me to do this spell, or whatever the case is. And he left me alone for a little bit, then came back. But what bothered me and what pushed me back to God was when she was like, well, now that you did the spell, you have to go get your favorite food. I mean, your Popup's favorite food, or your angels and your ancestors' favorite food, and set it out for them. And I was like, skirt. Hold up. Pause. Wait. What? Some food? Somewhat? Some food? That's what you said? No, I don't think so. Because that's when I started realizing that beings of light, God's angels, they don't require earthly attachments. Demons do, because they're fallen angels and they got kicked out. So of course they would want materialistic things, but not God's angels. God's angels do not require water and cake and food. And no, that's I'm not gonna go that far. It's always been relationship over religion. And that's for any Christian that's listening. That's for any Catholic that's listening. Any other type of religion. Jesus, this is more so for the Christians, Catholics. Jesus did not come and say, I am a Pharisee. He did not. He said, I am Son of Man, and I am a Son of God. That's what he said. He did not say, I'm a Pharisee. And for people who don't know who a Pharisee is, it's basically a modern day Christian. It's the people that were overly religious, that was, sending people to hell and telling people to do this. And they had too many rules and regulations And Jesus was like, y'all don't gotta do all that. Who told y'all to do this? These are man-made constructs. Like, this did not come from God. Where are y'all getting this information from? And these same people that was over religious and swore up and down that they believe in God, these were the people who essentially nailed Jesus to the cross. These were the people that were jealous because Jesus came down with the truth, and the truth went against everything that they went through. And another point that I'm making, people like to say that the truth hurts. The only reason why the truth hurts is because it's going against what you do. The truth wouldn't hurt if you was already stepping into the truth. If you were already in the truth, the truth would not hurt. But they nailed him to the cross. Today, I swear, and like I said, it's not all Christians. I'm going to keep saying that. It's not all Christians. But today, with the lukewarm Christians today, if Jesus was to come down here today, they would not even know what they would be looking at, because they are so wrapped up in man-made constructs, and they're so into their head that they wouldn't even recognize Jesus if he came down here today, because they don't know how to recognize spirits. They don't know how to decipher between them. So like I said, I got in a very bad situation, and I was already a dreamer. I was already a dreamer. But being in New Age, my gift and stuff, the occult stuff, it perverted my gift. And so people were astral projecting into my dream. I was getting, attacked in my dream, night terrors, all types of crazy stuff, because I was dealing with this stuff. Even though I wasn't doing nothing crazy, even though I wasn't, using blood or like anything like that, with any type of witchcraft I ever did, it was like using seasonings and like grass from the earth. Like, it wasn't even anything extreme. But again, what energies are you working with? What are you allowing to come in? And people don't realize that, like, for a season, for a certain amount of time, the angels and stuff that you're supposedly working with, they're going to treat you nicely, right? Just as long as you keep doing what they ask you to do. After that, it's game on. And like, that's why people, they have that instant gratification. Then they be like, oh, what's going on? Why do I feel sad again? It's because you're not working with the right energy. God and Jesus, they don't require that much. If people put all their attention that they pay attention to when the planet's going to retrograde, charging the crystals outside, doing this and this and that, their life will be so much more peaceful. Because my life has been so much more peaceful. You don't have to do all that extra toiling. It's no toiling when it comes to God. It's no extra hard work. The only time it becomes hard work is when you're trying to stop doing the things that you weren't supposed to be doing in the first place. That's the only reason when it's supposed to when it's hard. But besides that, it's not hard at all. It's not. And like at one time, God actually did walk, amongst us and stuff like that. But who messed it up? Y'all know the very first story that's in the Bible with Adam and Eve. Like, and even after Adam and Eve, people were deliberately, even though God was right there, walking amongst them, talking to them and stuff like that, they were still being deliberately disobedient to his face. So he said, okay, but I'm going to just hide from y'all. Y'all going to have to come find me if y'all want a relationship with me. I'm not doing this just showing up and doing this and that for you, but you just being disobedient and still not listening to what I told you. But we're going to talk about that in a different video. But if you want to know why a lot of things is the way that they are right now in the world, read the book of Ezekiel, because that's the book that I started reading when I came in. And literally the book of Ezekiel, if you really sit down and read it, it's the same things that's going on right now, right here, right now. But he's tired. God is tired of people painting him as this judgmental character, this big old being up there that's just mean and hateful and, just damning people to hell for one single mistake. He's tired of people painting him like that. That's why there's so many people, in Jesus or in Christ, like they like to say the body of Christ and stuff like that. Like, there's so many people waking up and like actually speaking the true gospel and what God stands for, because he's tired of being presented as this mean, evil spirit. He's not. He's not. He's loving. He's courageous. But you got to think, it took a lot for him to be, wrathful and show his wrath. It took a lot of disobedience for that. So it's like the people of the past, they were so, disobedient that God showed his mean side. That he was like, okay, y'all want to play? Plagues, fire, all that type of stuff. Because people were just being so disobedient. But it took a lot for him to do all that. And it took a lot of us to be disobedient for him to act the way that he acts. But he's not like that at all. And when you actually step into truth and you really know God for yourself, and don't just take my word for it, actually try to learn about him for yourself, and you will see that he's not mean at all. He's not like that. Because, when I first started coming into like the realization and stuff like that I had a veil, some type of veil over my eyes, because I was dealing with that individual, and that individual, I seen something in him that I don't want to talk about this. I'm probably gonna talk about it in a different platform, about the whole situation, for y'all to really know where I'm coming from. But there was a demonic presence over this individual, and it took for that situation to happen, the very bad situation I was in, for me to realize that I had some type of veil over me. So when I started coming into, asking all these questions, next thing you know, I start having dreams, visions, and voices that's like, go read your Bible. Read your Bible. I'm not picking up that old dusty thing. You got me chopped. I'm above the Bible. I done learned everything that I need to learn. Like, it's a book of lies. It's old, dusty. People done rewritten it over 1,000 times. Like, I had all these thoughts in my head. But if you actually sit and take the time to pick the Bible up for yourself and understand it, and actually sit with it and ask God to reveal the things that you need to know, he will show it to you. He wants us to go find him. He not about to come pick us up, because the last time he tried to come pick us up, guess what happened? He got nailed to the cross. And we still was doing what we did. So no, we got to go find him now. That's our task. But I didn't trust it because I didn't know where to start. And every day and night, I kept hearing, read your Bible, pick up your Bible. And I would look at it every day. Like I said, I never threw my Bible out or anything like that. I never got that steep with it. But it was just collecting dust. It was just sitting, hidden, because I thought it was the book of lies. But it wasn't until 2 to 3 weeks after I kept getting these visions and dreams about read your Bible, that Kendra, Pretty Boss TV, she came out and she denounced everything that she had been doing for, like, I think she said it was 3 years. All the new age stuff, all that stuff. Denounced it. People were coming at this girl's neck left and right, slaying her, slaughtering her. I felt so bad. But the thing is that when she came out with the news, I wasn't even upset at her. I was not upset at her at all. One, it was confirmation for about how I was feeling. Two, it was just the simple fact that I never followed her like that in an idle way. The people that were slaughtering her were looking at her in a godly way, a goddess way. They wasn't following God. They were following her. They wasn't realizing that she was just a vessel at the time. Even though she wasn't a vessel for God's purpose, she was still just a vessel. So they were looking at her crazy because she turned back to God. She went back to her roots, because she also did not come from a religious background. Her family, they were spiritual. Like, she had bits and pieces, but they, she has a different story on her platform. But it was just divine timing, because like I said, about 2 to 3 weeks before she dropped that video, I kept hearing something, read your Bible. I'm not reading that dusty thing. You could forget about it. But I just really appreciate her being courageous and her being obedient, even though she might have got slaughtered, because without that, I don't think there would have been no push for me to read the Bible. I probably still would have been trying to work with new age stuff and trying to get it together if she didn't come out with her video, denounce everything, because that was my confirmation. That was my confirmation to get back on track. because she was a lost shepherd. She was a shepherd, but she was lost too. So it took a lot of strength for her to do that, and I will always thank her for that. I've thanked her several times, and I will continue to thank her, because she really she doesn't even understand. Like, a lot of people don't even understand half my story. Like, this is literally only this much of my story. But no matter it, like, and she also showed me that no matter how big you get, you still gonna get attacked regardless. And like, even Jesus, he had haters. He still got haters to this day. People still don't want to, understand him or anything like that. They hate Jesus. So it don't matter what you did, what miracles you could do. People always going to hate you, no matter what. And it's just crazy to me how, people have faith in air. They wake up and they know that they're going to breathe air, but you can't see the air, but you don't want to believe in Jesus or God. It's crazy to me. But I started reading my Bible again after she denounced her video. The end of June, maybe July, I believe it was like July 13th. I'm not sure, when she came out that video, and I never put it down. Even when I was confused, I was like, I'm trying something new. This is very irritating, because the stuff that I started reading was rebuking me. It was like, that's wrong. That's wrong. And I was just like, God, what? Nah, somebody lying. The book of lies, like I said. That's what I kept saying. I kept calling it the book of lies. But I never put it down. But every time I was confused about something, Kendra had a way of breaking it down. It was just crazy. Literally, I would have a question one day, and then she would come out with a video and be like, all right, this is what I was led to. I'm breaking it down like this, da 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 da. And it's like, girl, were you in my house? Because I literally was asking God these questions the day before or 2 days before you dropped these videos. But with consistency and like just being authentic and just having a real, true, pure relationship with God has changed everything, has made me do a complete 360. Like, I literally had to sit down and be broken down. I had to be broken down. Just like how people make gold and stuff like that, I had to be broken down, melted, before I got to where I am right now. And it's crazy because June and July was not that long ago. It's only November. It's only November. But only my close friends, the people that was in my circle, they knew what I was going through. So I just want to give them a quick shout out, because y'all knew exactly what was going on. Like, when I say the close-knit circle, not the outer circle, but the close-knit circle, they seen how I was a mess. A mess. But I no longer drive. This is pretty much this is wrapping up my testimony. I no longer drive. I let God drive. Because the last time I drove the boat, we crashed. And we crashed. Okay, I'm just saying that we crashed terribly. So I don't want to drive no more. I just want to be, the little co-pilot, the little, that don't got to do too much. And I'm going to just let the captain have the ship. Because I can't drive. I can't drive the boat. And ever since I came back into God and just being a child of God, no religion, no new age, none of that stuff, and just being a pure child, his pure child, my mindset is different. My heart is different. My boundaries are different. Everything has changed drastically. And this is, like I said, this is only a small part of my testimony. And this testimony is not to, break down anybody, make anybody feel any type of way about anything. This is literally trying to get God's children back to him, his obedient ones and his disobedient ones. This is not a game. A lot of stuff is about to start turning up. A lot of stuff is about to start turning up. And if y'all do not try to build some type of relationship with God, it's not going to get pretty. It's not going to be pretty. I'm trying to tell y'all. I don't know. I don't want to consider this a warning, but it is some type of warning. Because at this point, it's too much stuff going on. And y'all know it's too much stuff going on. And if you can sit here and you know, go out and do X, Y, and Z. You can sit down and have the time to sit down and really break down and understand the Bible. My channel is not to shame anybody. Like I said, I'm trying to just do this for the kingdom. Represent God in a new light, because he is tired of people running from him. He is not this big boogeyman. And people just keep running from him. And even his obedient ones, they still be thinking they headstrong and better than everybody else. No. So I genuinely want to say, whoever sat here and watched this whole testimony, this video, I really truly appreciate you guys, because I feel like this video is going to get in the hands of people that need to hear it, that need to see it. I'm gonna have so many videos. I have so much to talk about. I have been documenting so much stuff to make videos on these past couple months. And not every video is about to be this long. Not every video about to be an hour and X amount of change. My videos are probably, I'm trying to aim for about 25-30 minutes on each video. Maybe might get to somewhere shorter, don't know. But God is still working on me. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not better than anybody. I changed a lot of stuff. I'm not even attracted to the same things anymore. Whether that's going out, drinking, any of that stuff. I stopped a lot of stuff. We gonna get into it in many videos. But I just want to say, I love and I appreciate you guys. Anybody who tuned into this video. This is me stepping out of my comfort zone. I don't tell people everything. I don't tell people my business. So if you really sat here and watched this video, I so truly appreciate it. I really, really do, because I do not do things like this often. This is a big step for me. This is the beginning of something big. I don't know what God is going to turn it into, but it's going to be something big. And I'm just continue to let the Holy Spirit work through me the best way, because I'm only a vessel. I'm only the pointer. I'm only pointing people to God. I don't want people idolizing me. I don't want people looking at me, because I don't do it for myself. I don't do it for the glory of myself. I do it for the glory of him, for the glory of God himself. That's who I do it for. I don't do it for anybody else, and I don't do it for myself. So with that said, thank you guys for tuning in.